The rain came down in restless sheets, the kind that soaks ambition before it hits the ground. Inside a dim corner office, 3 men stood over a blueprint that smelled faintly of ink, sugar syrup, and dreams. The air conditioner rattled like an old engine, and the fluorescent lights hummed a tired note. In that flickering light, Aaron Blake saw the faces of men he once called brothers, Tom Mercer and Dean Wild, faces he'd sweated beside, argued with, toasted success with. Tonight, those faces were strangers. Their startup had been called Fizz Up, a small soft drink company that had started in a garage in Atlanta 3 summers ago. It was meant to be the American dream in a bottle. Handcrafted soda with natural sweetness, bold flavors, and a local touch. They'd sold crates out of Aaron's truck, handed samples at festivals, even begged diners to stock them. It had been a struggle, but a beautiful one. Until the money showed up, Tom had always been the smooth talker, Dean the numbers guy. Aaron, though, had been the soul, the recipe maker, the man who lived for taste. His cola formula was different, deeper, smoother, with a hint of citrus and spice that felt nostalgic yet new. It had been his masterpiece. But to investors, recipes didn't matter, scalability did. "You're out," Tom said that night, his voice flat as paperwork. The board voted. "We're restructuring." Aaron blinked, thinking he'd misheard. "Restructuring? I built this from nothing with you." Dean avoided his eyes. "You're too attached to the old ways. The market's shifting. We can't afford your artisan approach." He wanted to laugh, maybe break something instead. "You mean you can't control me?" Tom slid a folder across the table. "Sign it, take your payout, and walk away." Aaron stared at the document, the legal grave of his dream, and felt something inside him fracture. "You're stealing my formula," he said quietly. "It's company property now," Dean murmured. Aaron looked at them both, memorizing their faces under the flicker of the cheap ceiling light. "You'll regret this," he whispered. "I don't make drinks for money. I make them for people. And one day, people will taste the difference." He walked out with nothing but a notebook full of scribbles and a heart that tasted like ash. The first few months were survival. He slept in his truck, took freelance marketing jobs, stocked shelves in grocery stores where his former brand now gleamed under fluorescent perfection. Every time he saw a Fizz-Up bottle, sleek, modern, soulless, he clenched his jaw. His own formula was gone, stolen, rebranded. But revenge is patient when fueled by faith. In an abandoned laundromat downtown, Aaron found his lab, a cracked tile room with humming pipes, the air thick with detergent ghosts. He bought 2 used soda machines, a beat-up carbonation tank, and a mini fridge. Nights blurred into mornings. He worked by instinct, sugar ratios, acids, aromatics. He'd sip, frown, scribble, start again. He chased the taste that lived somewhere between memory and madness. One evening, while exhaustion leaned heavy on his shoulders, a kid from the next building wandered in, drawn by the hiss of carbonation. "You making soda, mister?" Aaron smiled faintly. "Trying to." The boy picked up a half-filled bottle, sniffed. "Smells like summer." Aaron laughed for the first time in weeks. "Then maybe I'm close." 3 months later, he had it. He tasted the sample in the glow of a single bulb and felt his chest tighten. It wasn't just cola, it was emotion. There was citrus brightness, dark caramel, a whisper of something floral. It was both old and new. He wrote one word in his notebook, legacy. He started small again. Street markets, food trucks, pop-ups in parks. His brand was nameless for now, just brown bottles with blank labels and silver caps. He wanted the taste to speak before the name did. People noticed. There was something human about the drink, something that felt alive in a world of synthetics. Social media caught on. A TikTok clip showed a girl tearing up after her first sip. "It tastes like my dad's old diner," she said. Another caption read, "Not sponsored, just stunned. Aaron refused investors." He'd learned. This time, no suits, no boards, just believers. Meanwhile, Tom and Dean basked in their empire. Fizz-Up had gone national, plastered across billboards, stadiums, and talk shows. But success, like sugar, can rot beneath the surface. Focus groups began complaining the flavor was flat, chemical, forgettable. Competitors were circling. In a desperate push, Tom ordered a reformulation, ironically reverting to Aaron's original ratios, but it wasn't the same. The public could tell. Dean grew restless. He scrolled social media one night and froze at a viral clip, a nameless brown bottle with millions of likes. Comments read, "Best cola ever. This hits deeper than Fizz Up. Who made this?" He clicked the video again, replaying the man's hand pouring the drink. The label was blank, but the pour looked familiar. The amber fizz, the bubbles, the viscosity. He knew that pour, he whispered, Aaron. Back in his laundromat-turned-factory, Aaron's world was expanding. He'd hired local teens, paid them fairly, taught them every ratio, every pour. The place smelled of syrup and second chances. Naomi, a small business journalist, found him while chasing a story on underground beverage culture. She interviewed him between mixers, her recorder catching his quiet humility. "You don't even have a logo," she said. "People don't drink logos," Aaron replied. "They drink memories." Her article, "The Cola Ghost Who Outsells Giants," went viral overnight. Suddenly, stores called. Cafes begged for supply. Online orders crashed his tiny website. That's when he knew he needed a name. Something bold. Something that tasted like defiance. He opened his notebook, stared at the word legacy, crossed it out, and wrote beneath it, Vita Cola, from the Latin vita, meaning life. It wasn't Pepsi yet, not in this world, but it was destiny's prototype. Months rolled by, and Vita Cola began to conquer the underground scene. No ads, no campaigns, just word of mouth and taste. It became the rebel's drink, the soda for those tired of corporate gloss. Celebrities were photographed holding it mysteriously. Late-night hosts mentioned it. A street mural in Brooklyn painted the phrase, "Taste your truth." Tom saw it everywhere. He called Dean into his glass-walled office, eyes bloodshot. "It's him. He's mocking us," Dean exhaled. "Maybe he just made something people like." Tom slammed his fist on the table. "He's using my distribution routes. He's stealing our market." Dean didn't answer. He was thinking of the man they'd discarded, of how calm Aaron had been that night, and of the promise, "You'll regret this." By winter, Vita Cola hit mainstream. Aaron had secured local bottling partners, his formula still secret. Investors begged again, this time promising creative control. He refused again. Instead, he created community hubs, pop-up bars serving mocktails mixed with Vita Cola, live music, poetry nights. The drink wasn't just a beverage now, it was culture, and that's when fate brought him face-to-face with the past. At a National Beverage Expo in Chicago, Aaron's small booth sat in a far corner, next to energy drink startups and novelty teas. Across the hall, Fizz Up's towering setup glowed like a Vegas billboard. Giant screens, influencers, fake smiles. He felt the tremor in his hands as he watched Tom on stage, pitching the new era of authentic soda. Authentic. The word burned, but then the crowd began to shift. People leaving the flashy booth, wandering toward the corner where a simple table stood. No screens, no gimmicks. Just an ice bucket, glass bottles, and one man pouring quietly. Someone filmed it. Someone uploaded it. And by evening, the other cola trended worldwide. Back at his motel that night, Aaron scrolled through comments, praise, curiosity, speculation. He smiled, not with triumph, but with quiet awe. Revenge didn't feel like anger anymore. It felt like justice finally breathing. Still, deep inside, he knew the war wasn't over. "Fizz Up wouldn't let this go," the machine would strike back. As he packed for the flight home, Naomi called. "You know they'll come after you legally now, right?" "Let them," he said, closing his suitcase. "They can own my past. I own the future." He turned off the motel light, the neon reflection of a soda billboard flickering through the blinds like prophecy. Tomorrow the world would learn the name Vita Cola officially. Tomorrow the empire of betrayal would meet its reckoning. But tonight, it was just a man and the sound of fizz in a bottle, whispering that the sweet burn of cola is a lot like life, sharp, addictive, and unforgettable. The morning Vita Cola officially launched, the city woke to a storm. Not of rain, but of noise, news, and disbelief. Headlines flashed across every outlet like fire through dry fields. Mysterious cola startup outsells Fizz Up overnight. A new giant emerges. Who is the man behind the bottle? Aaron Blake didn't read them. He didn't need to. He'd been up since dawn, standing in the bottling warehouse, watching the first line of freshly printed labels glide down the conveyor. The word Vita Cola shimmered in silver ink against dark glass. It wasn't just a brand, it was a pulse. Each hiss of carbonation sounded like vindication. Naomi showed up late, breathless from the rush of press requests. "You're officially the fastest-growing independent beverage in America," she said, half laughing, half in awe. Aaron just smiled. Not bad for a guy who started in a laundromat. But he wasn't celebrating. He was preparing. He knew the storm to come would make the last one look like drizzle. Because Tom Mercer had finally realized what he was up against. At FizzUp headquarters, Tom's composure had dissolved into rage. His empire, his carefully polished illusion, was crumbling. FizzUp's stock had dropped 30% in 2 weeks. Their latest campaign, Rediscover Real, had been hijacked online with edits reading, "Rediscover Vita Cola." He threw a can across the room. "He's not just competing. He's mocking us." Dean stood near the window, silent, watching snow start to fall. "He's not mocking us, Tom. He's just better," Tom spun on him. "You think I'll let him win? You think I'll let some washed-up dreamer steal my company's place?" Dean's eyes were tired. It was never your company alone. That was the last conversation they had as friends. Within hours, Tom filed a massive lawsuit against Vita Cola, claiming trademark infringement, stolen trade secrets, even defamation. The paperwork hit Aaron's inbox like a thunderclap. 400 pages of venom wrapped in legal jargon. Naomi read through it with a grim face. "They want to bleed you dry in court." Aaron leaned back in his chair, staring at the ceiling. "Then they still don't understand me. I don't fight in courtrooms. I fight in hearts." The lawsuit made headlines. Investors and analysts predicted Vita Cola's collapse. They called it a PR suicide. But the internet had other plans. Within a week, hashtags like "Let Vita Pour" and "Fizz Up the Bullies" were everywhere. Customers filmed themselves pouring Fizz Up cans into sinks, replacing them with Vita Cola bottles. One viral clip showed a retired diner owner saying, "I drank Fizz Up once. It tasted like a lie." Aaron didn't post a single thing. He didn't need to. Silence was louder, but behind the calm, his team was breaking. Orders were flooding in faster than production could handle. Supply chains strained. Machines failed. Competitors whispered that he'd collapse under his own success. He didn't sleep for days, moving between warehouses, repairing equipment himself, teaching new hires how to bottle, seal, stack. His hands blistered, his voice hoarse. Yet every night, when exhaustion clawed at him, he'd take a single bottle, open it, and listen to that faint psst of carbonation. That sound reminded him why he'd started, because something real deserves to breathe. 3 months later, the court date arrived. The courtroom was a theater of hypocrisy. Tom sat with his lawyers, expensive suits glinting under the fluorescent lights, while cameras flashed outside the door. Across the aisle, Aaron sat quietly in his modest blue jacket, no entourage, just Naomi beside him. The judge read the charges. The room buzzed with tension. Tom's lawyer began with venom. "My client's proprietary formula was stolen and rebranded. The defendant, Mr. Blake, has built his company on deceit and misappropriation." Aaron stayed silent. He'd already told Naomi, the truth doesn't need to shout. When his turn came, his lawyer, an old friend from his early struggles, stood and said simply, "Your Honor, my client didn't steal their formula. They stole his dream," the gallery murmured. They played a clip next, an old interview from years ago when Fizz Up was still young. The reporter asked Tom where their recipe came from, and Tom, cocky and careless, said, "All Aaron. He's the flavor guy." Gasps filled the room. Tom's face drained of color. Dean looked away. Naomi squeezed Aaron's hand under the table. The war was ending before the verdict. The judge dismissed half the claims immediately. Within weeks, the rest collapsed under public scrutiny. Fizz Up's reputation never recovered. Their stock flatlined. Investors fled, but Aaron didn't rejoice. After the trial, he disappeared from public view. No interviews, no victory tours. He went back to his warehouse, same old jacket, same old machines. His team found him scrubbing syrup stains off the floor. Naomi confronted him. "You just made history. Why are you cleaning floors?" He smiled faintly. "Because if I forget how it started, I'll ruin how it ends." He turned away, but his eyes gleamed with a mix of peace and exhaustion. Besides, this isn't about them anymore. It's about the people who believed. That summer, Vita Cola launched globally, not through traditional ads, but through community. In small towns, murals of bottles appeared overnight, painted by fans. In cities, street musicians performed songs called "The Taste of Life." The drink became more than a product. It was rebellion, renewal, belonging. Aaron didn't attend the ribbon cuttings. He spent his days traveling quietly, visiting stores, talking to staff, listening to customers. One night in a diner in Kansas, he sat at the counter and overheard two old men arguing. "I'm telling you, this new Vita Cola stuff's the real deal. Better than Fizz Up ever was. Fizz Up's gone, man. That founder ran it into the ground. Who made Vita Cola anyway?" Aaron smiled, sipped from his glass, and said softly, "Just someone who wanted it to taste right." Months passed. The world moved on. But one morning, Naomi burst into his office holding a newspaper. "You need to see this." The headline read, "Fizz Up declares bankruptcy." Aaron stared at it for a long moment, then folded the paper neatly. "They had everything," he said. "Money, power, control." He looked up, his voice quiet but steady. "But they forgot the one thing that keeps a drink alive." Naomi tilted her head. "What's that?" he smiled. "Heart." A year later, a reunion of sorts happened. A beverage summit in Los Angeles. Global leaders, executives, founders. Aaron was invited to speak. At first he refused, then he reconsidered. Not out of pride, but closure. The auditorium was massive, packed with industry elites. He walked to the stage, no teleprompter, no script. "Just truth. I started with nothing but an idea," he began. "And I lost everything to people who thought numbers could replace passion. But here's what I learned. You can copy formulas, you can buy marketing, but you can't fake sincerity. People taste it, they feel it." The crowd was silent. Cameras flashed. He paused, then added, "Success isn't about selling something everyone drinks. It's about creating something someone remembers." He looked out into the crowd, and in the second row, he saw Dean. Gray-haired, tired, but present. Their eyes met. For a heartbeat, everything fell quiet. Dean nodded once, a silent apology. Aaron returned the nod. It was enough. Later that night, Aaron stood on the hotel balcony overlooking the city lights. Naomi joined him with 2 bottles of Vita Cola. They clinked them like champagne. "To victory," she teased. He smiled. "To forgiveness." They drank, the bubbles catching the reflection of the city like tiny sparks. Below, billboards glowed. Vita Cola, live bold, drink real. The world had embraced it. But to Aaron, the story wasn't about profit. It was about redemption, the kind that tastes sweet, not bitter. Years later, when a young entrepreneur asked him how he did it, he said, "They took my formula, my friends, my reputation, so I made something they couldn't steal." "What was that?" the kid asked. Aaron grinned. "My purpose." He handed the kid a bottle and said, "Remember this. Revenge gets you noticed. Purpose makes you unforgettable." That night, he walked through one of his flagship stores in New York. Lights dimmed, workers gone. The shelves gleamed with rows of glass bottles, each one a fragment of his journey. He picked one up, held it to the light, and whispered, "We did it." The fizz hissed softly in reply, like an old friend breathing back. Outside, the city pulsed with life. Neon lights, laughter, stories. Somewhere in that electric heartbeat, Aaron Blake's name had become more than a man. It had become a lesson that betrayal can build empires, that pain can pour purpose, and that sometimes the sweetest revenge is simply being better